Hi friend, welcome to the live study channel. Today I am going to discuss RESTful and SOAP web services interview question for a question and answer for experienced person. First question is, what is difference REST and RESTful web services? What is REST is standard for the representational state transfer protocol. It is a relatively new concept of writing web services which enforces a stateless client-server design where web services are treated as a resource and can be accessed and identified by the URL like SOAP web services, which were defined by WSDL, means Web Services Description Language. Web services written by apply REST architecture concept are called RESTful web services, which focus on system resources and how state of resources should be transferred over the HTTP protocol to a different client written in a different language. In the RESTful web services, HTTP method like GET, PUT, POST, DELETE can be used to perform CRUD operation. Okay, move to the another question. Another question is, what is a RESTlet framework? RESTlet is a leading RESTful web framework for Java application. Is used to build RESTful web services. It has two parts, means RESTless APIs and a RESTlet implementation, much like sublet specification. There are many implementations of RESTlet framework available. You just need to add their jar in your class path to use. Then by using the RESTless web framework, you can write client and server. Another question is, what is resource in a REST framework? It is present a REST means resource, REST architecture means RESTlet API. It has lifecycle method like init method, handle method, release method, contain context request and response corresponding to the specific target. Resource, this is now the deprecated over the server resource class and should use that, means you can use init method, handle method, release method. Okay, next question is, can you use REST without any web container? Answer is yes, means RESTless framework provide default server which can be used to handle service requests in a web container is not available. Another question is, how to display custom error page using RESTful web services. In order to customize error, you need to extend status service and implement get representation, means status request response method with your custom code. Now assign init instance of your custom status service to appropriate status service properties. Another question is, what is difference between top-down and bottom-up approach for developing web services? Very most important question. In top-down approach, first web services description language documentation is created and then Java classes are developed based on web services description language contract. So while in case of bottom of approach of web service development, you first create a Java code and then use annotation like @web service to specify contract or interface, and web service description language field will be automatically generated from your build. Means first create the Java code, okay, in a bottom up. Another question is, what happen if RESTful resources are exceeded by multiple clients? Do you need to make it thread safe? Since a new resource instance is created for every incoming request, means there is no need to make a thread safe or add synchronization. Means multiple clients can be safely access RESTful web resources concurrently. Just another question is, what is caching? Caching is the process in which server response is stored so that a cache copy can be used when required and there is no need for generating the same response again. This process can't only reduce the server load but in turn increase the accessibility and performance of the server. Only the client is able to catch the response, and that too for a limited period of time. Means time and date of resource creation, time and date of resource modification that usually store the last detail, cache control header, time and date at which the cache resource will expire, the age which determine the time from when the resource has been fetched. But the cache is a technique of storing frequently used data information in a local memory for a certain time period. So the next time when the client requests the same information in need of retrieving the information from the database, it will be give the information from the local memory. The main advantage of caching is that it is improve the performance by reducing the processing burden. Okay, the cache in a web API to improve its performance by decreasing the response time. I have created a web API project and I have data control and get data action method as the form norms. Means suppose I am creating the method synchronization method, they send the data getter data, and you can add means object dot add 1 2 3 dashes like this. Okay, move to the another question. Another question is, explain cache control header. A standard cache control header can be help in attending cache ability. Enlisted below is the brief description of the various cache control header. Means public, private. Just to means public and private. Resources that are marked as a public can be cached by any intermediate component between the client and the server. But in a private, resources that are marked as private can only be cached by the client. No cache means that our particular resource cannot be cached, and thus the whole process is stopped. Means okay, only two, public and private. Next question is, what are the best practical that are to be followed while designing RESTful web services? Means there are explained the following ones. Every input on the server should be validated. Input should be well formatted. Never pass any sensitive data through the URL. For any session, the user should be authenticated. Only HTTP error message should be used for indicating any fault. Use the message format that is easily understood and is required by the client. Unified resource identifier should be description and easily understood. Just those are things. Okay. Next question is, what is difference between put method and the post method? Very common question for interview purpose. The major difference between put and post method is the result generating with put method is always the same no matter how many times operation is performed. On the other hand, the result generated by the post operation is always different every time. Okay, means no matter is always the same no matter, but in a post always different every time. Another question is, what are the major building block or REST web services? Generally, there are two building or REST web service, means resource URL, URIs, and HTTP request method. Okay. In some presentation formats, mean the presentation format should be service actually send and receive. Generally, this is the means represent, and it is a I assume you are a client. Yeah, your client can accept whatever presentation format your service. No need to client take a priority over the anything I can say here. If you know your data is being fed directly into Microsoft Excel or any data means, okay, service presentation Excel format can compatible. Like Mike, you can change the CSV format. Okay, in a XHTML means media type applications. Okay, the common text HTML media means HTML media type is described for the XHTML. It should also only the media type that Internet Explorer handle a HTML. If your service might be serving XHTML data directly, the web browser you might want to serve it a text HTML. Right? Move to the another question. Another question is, what is the role of HTTP request method in a REST web services? In RESTful web services, HTTP request method play very key role. Means they inform the server on what do you with the client request. Means client send to server, okay, which type request client are sent. Another question is, what are the primary security issue of web services? To ensure realizable transaction and resource confidential information, web services require very high level of security, which can be only achieved through the Entrust Secure Transaction Platform. Security issues for web services are broadly divided into three sections as described. First section is confidently authentication network security. So I am discuss first point is confidentiality. A single web service can have multiple applications. Means a single web service can have multiple applications and these service path contain a potential weak link at its nodes. Whenever messages are say XML requests are sent by the client along with the service path to the server, they must be encrypted, thus maintaining the confidentialities of the communication is a must. Second point is authentication. Authentication is basically performed to verify the identity of the users as well as ensuring that the user using the web service has been right to use or not. Authentication is also done through the track users activities. There are several options that can be considered for this purpose. Application level authentication. HTTP Digest and HTTP Basic Authentication Client Certificate like SSL. Network security means this is the serious issue which requires tools to filter web service traffic. Another question is what is the addressing in a RESTful web services? Addressing refers to locating a resource or multiple resources lying on the server. It is analogous to locate a postal address of a person. Another question is what is difference between monolithics SOA and microservice architecture? Monolithic architecture is similar to a big container wherein all the software components of an application are assembled together and tightly packed. Means tightly packaged. A service-oriented architecture means a service-oriented architecture is a collection of services which communicate with each other. The communication can involve either simple data passing or could involve two or more services coordinating some activities. In a microservice architecture is an architectural style that structures an application as a collection of small autonomous services modeled around a business domain. Means a microservices architecture is an architectural style that structure an application as a collection of small autonomous services modeled around a business domain. Next question is, what is difference between Ajax and REST? In Ajax, the requests are sent to the server by using XML HTTP request object. REST have a URL structure and request response pattern. The revolve around the use of resources. Ajax eliminates the interaction between the customer and server asynchronously. REST requests the interaction between the customer and server. Ajax is a set of technology. REST is a type of software architecture and the method for user to request data on the data or information from the server. Another question is, what does @request mapping annotation do? The @request mapping annotation is used to map web request to Spring controller method. You can map a request based upon HTTP method. For example, get, post, delete, put, various other parameters. For example, if you are developing a RESTful web services using Spring, then you can use reduce and consume property along with media type annotation to indicate that its method is only used to produce and consume JSON. Means, for example, @request mapping method is equal to request method dot post, consumer is equal to application slash JSON. Return, what is return? The book repository dot save ebook. Another question is, when do you need @request body annotation in a Spring MVC? The request response body annotation can be put on method to indicate that B return type should be written directly to the HTTP response body and not placed in a model or interpreted as a view name. For example, request mapping is in the path is equal to hello, method is equal to request method dot put @response body, create the method hello world in a string, return the hello world. Next question is, does REST work with transport layer security? Transport layer security is used for secure communication between client and server. It is the successor of SSL, means secure socket layer, since HTTPS can work with both SSL and TSL. REST can also work with TSL. Actually, in a REST, it is up to the server to implement security protocols. The same RESTful web service can be accessed using HTTPS. If the server support SSL, if you are using Tomcat, you can learn more about the enable SSL in Tomcat. SSL means secure socket layer. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe this video. Thank you so much. It's a very thank you so much.